Imagine a people so fierce, so legendary that they named themselves after one man. A general so terrifying that his very name made emperors tremble and sultans flee. In the 13th century, this man controlled more territory than any European king, commanded armies larger than Rome at its peak, and built an empire that would outlast the Mongol Golden Horde itself. His name was Nogai Khan. And today, 800 years later, his descendants still roam the steppes, carrying his blood and his legacy. In the next 30 minutes, you'll discover how one general became more powerful than the Khan himself. See how his people survived the collapse of empires, witness the most brutal nomadic warfare tactics ever recorded, and understand why the Nogai are called the last true nomads of Europe. You'll learn secrets that historians kept buried for centuries, and witness a legacy of survival that defies every odd. But first, let me take you back to 1241, when everything changed forever. Picture this. It's 1241 AD. Europe is burning. Mongol hordes have just crushed Poland at the Battle of Legnica. 40,000 European knights lie dead on frozen fields. But leading the vanguard isn't Batu Khan, the official commander. It's a young general whose tactical genius will soon eclipse even his master. His name is Nogai, and he's about to write his name in blood across 3 continents. But here's what the history books won't tell you. Nogai wasn't born to rule. He was born to a minor Mongol family, a cousin of Batu Khan who should have remained in the shadows forever. What transformed this nobody into the most feared man in medieval Europe? The answer lies in one crucial moment that changed everything. Winter, 1242. The Golden Horde is retreating from Europe after devastating Hungary. Young Nogai, barely 25, approaches Batu Khan with a proposal so audacious it should have cost him his life. "Give me 10,000 men," he says, "and I'll show you how to control Europe without conquering it." Batu laughs. Then he sees something in Nogai's eyes, a cold intelligence that chills him to the bone. Against all logic, he gives Nogai his chance. What happens next will reshape the medieval world forever. But we'll return to that moment. First, you need to understand what made Nogai different from every other Mongol general. Because this difference would eventually create an entire people, the Nogai. Most Mongol generals relied on one thing: overwhelming force. Crush the enemy, move on, collect tribute. Simple, brutal, effective. Nogai saw further. He understood something that even Genghis Khan had missed: the power of terror mixed with diplomacy. Instead of simply destroying his enemies, Nogai would offer them a choice. Submit completely, provide hostages, pay tribute, and live in relative peace. Refuse and face annihilation so complete that neighboring kingdoms would submit without a fight just hearing about it. This wasn't just military strategy. It was psychological warfare on a scale never seen before. By 1250, Nogai controlled territories stretching from the Danube to the Volga. But here's the fascinating part. Officially, he was still just Batu Khan's general. In reality, he commanded over 200,000 warriors, controlled trade routes worth millions in today's currency, and had marriage alliances with Bulgarian czars, Byzantine emperors, and Hungarian kings. Picture the scene. European ambassadors arriving at Nogai's court, expecting to meet a barbarian chieftain. Instead, they find a sophisticated political mastermind who speaks 7 languages, understands European politics better than European kings, and can quote Byzantine law while planning military campaigns across 3 fronts. But this success came with a price that would haunt the Nogai people for centuries. Batu Khan is dead. The new Khan of the Golden Horde, Mengu Timur, makes a fatal mistake. He orders Nogai to subordinate his forces and return to traditional Mongol structure. Nogai's response is swift and terrifying. "I am Nogai," he declares to the assembly of Mongol nobles. My armies answer to me alone. My people follow my banner, and anyone who challenges this will face the consequences. The hall falls silent, because everyone present understands. This isn't just rebellion. This is the birth of a new power. The Nogai Horde has just declared independence from the Golden Horde. What follows is the most brutal civil war in Mongol history. Brother fights brother across the steppes, but Nogai has advantages that even Mengu Timur doesn't understand yet. First, loyalty. Nogai's warriors don't follow him out of fear. They follow him because he's made them rich, powerful, and respected. His generals command territories larger than European kingdoms. His common soldiers live better than most European nobles. Second, allies. While the Golden Horde fights alone, Nogai has marriage alliances across half of Europe. Bulgarian armies march under his banners. Hungarian cavalry charges beside his horsemen. Even the Byzantine emperor provides financial support. But the third advantage is the most crucial, and it's what will define the Nogai people forever. Nogai understands something that traditional Mongols never grasped: adaptation. While the Golden Horde remains locked in 13th century tactics, Nogai's forces evolve constantly. They adopt European heavy cavalry techniques. They learn siege warfare from Byzantine engineers. They master river warfare from Slavic allies. By 1270, the Nogai Horde isn't just a Mongol army. It's a fusion military force using the best tactics from across the known world. The results are devastating. In battle after battle, Nogai's forces crush traditional Mongol armies. By 1280, he controls more territory than the Golden Horde itself. But success breeds new dangers, and the greatest threat to Nogai's empire is growing in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. By 1285, Nogai has achieved something unprecedented. He's simultaneously a Mongol Khan, a European power broker, and the true ruler of the Black Sea region. But his greatest achievement isn't military. It's political manipulation on a scale that makes Machiavelli look like an amateur. Consider this. In 1285, Nogai personally decides who becomes king of Bulgaria, influences the succession in Hungary, controls Byzantine trade policy, and has marriage alliances with the royal families of at least 6 different kingdoms. No European ruler dares make major decisions without consulting him first. But here's where the story gets truly incredible. The Bulgarian Tsar dies without a clear heir. European powers prepare for a succession war that could destabilize the entire region. Then Nogai makes his move, and it's so audacious it leaves everyone speechless. He doesn't just influence the succession. He places his own son-in-law on the Bulgarian throne. A Mongol prince becomes Tsar of Bulgaria, ruling over Slavic nobles who had fought against Mongol rule for generations. The Western world is stunned. The Pope himself writes letters trying to understand how this happened. Byzantine chroniclers describe it as the day the natural order of the world ended. But Nogai isn't finished, because this Bulgarian coup is just the beginning of a plan so ambitious it will reshape medieval Europe forever. Picture this. It's 1295. In the halls of Turnovo, the new Bulgarian capital, an unprecedented meeting takes place. Nogai sits at the head of a table surrounded by Hungarian princes, Bulgarian boyars, Serbian nobles, and Byzantine officials. They're not just discussing trade agreements or border disputes. They're planning the creation of an entirely new power structure, an anti-Mongol alliance led by a Mongol, designed to push both the Golden Horde and the Ilkhanate out of Europe completely. The irony is breathtaking. Nogai, who built his power as a Mongol general, is now planning to destroy Mongol influence in Europe. But his motives aren't betrayal, they're survival. Because he's realized something that will prove prophetic. The age of nomadic empires is ending, and only those who adapt will survive. By 1300, Nogai has created something never seen before, a nomadic empire that controls sedentary kingdoms through marriage, alliance, and strategic terror. His network stretches from the Baltic to the Black Sea. Hungarian chroniclers describe him as the power behind all powers. Bulgarian sources call him the Khan of Khans. Byzantine texts refer to him as the ruler who rules rulers. But they all use one phrase that reveals the true scope of his influence. No crown in Eastern Europe shines without Nogai's permission. This isn't just political hyperbole. By 1300, Nogai personally controls 40% of all trade between Europe and Asia. The succession rights in 3 kingdoms. The largest mobile army in Eastern Europe, marriage alliances that span from Lithuania to Constantinople. He has become, in effect, the unofficial emperor of Eastern Europe. And his people, those who will become the Nogai, are the inheritors of this impossible legacy. Here's what most historians miss about the Nogai Horde. They weren't just another Mongol military force. By 1280, they had evolved into something entirely new. A fusion culture that combined Mongol military efficiency with European diplomatic sophistication and Turkic commercial networks. But it's in their daily life that you see the real difference. While traditional Mongol tribes remained strictly nomadic, Nogai's people began developing what we might call selective settlement. They maintained their mobility and military readiness, but also established permanent trading posts, diplomatic residences, and even agricultural settlements in strategic locations. Imagine visiting a Nogai camp in 1290. You'd see traditional felt yurts alongside stone buildings. Mongol shamans conducting rituals next to Orthodox priests blessing warriors. Merchants from Venice negotiating with nomad traders while Bulgarian scribes record agreements in 3 different languages. This fusion culture would become the defining characteristic of the Nogai people and their greatest survival advantage. But Nogai's most brilliant innovation wasn't military or economic. It was genetic. He understood something that would take European nobility centuries to learn. Controlled intermarriage could create loyalty that lasted for generations. Between 1260 and 1300, Nogai orchestrated over 200 strategic marriages between his clan members and European, Turkic, and Mongol noble families. But these weren't just political alliances. They were cultural exchanges that created a new kind of identity. A Nogai princess married to a Bulgarian boyar would maintain her nomadic traditions while learning Orthodox Christianity. Her children would be equally comfortable in a felt yurt and a stone palace, equally loyal to nomadic codes of honor and European concepts of chivalry. Over 3 generations, this created something unprecedented, a people who belonged everywhere and nowhere, who could adapt to any culture while maintaining their own identity. By 1295, the descendants of Nogai's original 10,000 warriors numbered over 400,000. But they weren't concentrated in one area. They were spread across Eastern Europe in a network of interconnected communities, each adapted to local conditions while maintaining cultural unity. Some had become the military elite of Bulgaria. Others controlled trade routes in Hungary. Still others served as diplomatic liaisons in Byzantine territories. But they all considered themselves Nogai, children of the great Khan who had carved an empire from nothing. This dispersal would prove to be their salvation, because the greatest catastrophe in Mongol history was about to strike, and concentrated peoples would perish while dispersed ones survived. Nogai is 83 years old, ancient by medieval standards but still sharp as a blade. His empire spans thousands of miles, his influence reaches into every European court, and his armies remain undefeated. He has achieved something no other Mongol ever managed. He has built an empire that seems destined to outlast even the Yuan dynasty in China. But empires built by titans often die with their creators, and Nogai has made one crucial mistake that will cost him everything. He has underestimated his own nephew. Chaka Khan, ruler of a Golden Horde faction, has spent 20 years in Nogai's shadow. On the surface, he appears loyal, even submissive. But privately, he has been building his own network of alliances, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That moment comes in the winter of 1299, when Nogai's armies are dispersed across his vast territories, dealing with a dozen different crises simultaneously. Chaka makes his move with the precision of a master chess player. But this isn't just a military coup. It's a generational conflict that will reshape the entire Mongol world. 1300 AD. On the frozen steppes near the Dnieper River, two Mongol armies face each other in what will become one of the most significant battles in medieval history. On one side, Nogai, 84 years old, leading 60,000 veteran warriors who have followed him for decades. On the other, Chaka, young and ambitious, commanding 80,000 fresh troops loyal to the traditional Golden Horde. But the numbers don't tell the whole story, because this battle isn't just about military victory. It's about the future of nomadic civilization itself. Nogai represents adaptation, evolution, the integration of nomadic culture with sedentary civilization. Chaka represents tradition, the old ways, the belief that Mongol culture must remain pure and unchanging. The battle that follows will determine not just who rules the steppes, but what kind of people the Nogai will become. The fighting lasts for 3 days. Nogai, despite his age, leads from the front like a warrior half his age. For a moment, it seems like his experience and tactical genius will triumph once again. His veterans are pushing Chaka's forces back across the frozen river. Then disaster strikes in the most personal way possible. A young warrior, barely 20 years old, breaks through Nogai's personal guard. For one moment, the old Khan and the young warrior stare at each other across crossed swords. Then the blade falls. Nogai Khan, the man who had ruled Eastern Europe for 40 years, dies as he had lived, in battle, fighting against impossible odds. But his death isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of something even more remarkable. As Nogai falls, his son Cheke faces an impossible choice. He can continue the battle and likely die with honor, or he can save his people by tactical retreat. In that moment, Cheke makes the decision that will define the Nogai people for the next 700 years. He chooses survival over honor. He orders the retreat. But this isn't surrender, it's transformation. Because as Nogai's armies scatter across Eastern Europe, they're not fleeing in panic. They're executing a survival strategy that Nogai himself had prepared for exactly this scenario. The Nogai Horde as a unified military force has been destroyed. Chaka controls the steppes. The Golden Horde has reasserted its authority. European kingdoms that had allied with Nogai quickly switch sides to avoid retribution. By any reasonable measure, the Nogai people should disappear into history, absorbed by conquering forces or simply fading away like so many other defeated tribes. Instead, something extraordinary happens. The Nogai don't disappear, they adapt, disperse, and endure. Remember those 200 strategic marriages Nogai had arranged? Those trading posts, diplomatic residences, and cultural exchange programs? In 1301, they become the foundation of the most successful survival strategy in nomadic history. Nogai families scattered across Eastern Europe don't try to maintain their old military structure. Instead, they activate their secondary identities. In Bulgaria, they become Bulgarian nobles with Mongol heritage. In Hungary, they become Hungarian cavalry officers with nomadic traditions. In Byzantine territories, they become Orthodox Christians with steppe customs. But, and this is crucial, they maintain their cultural identity through oral tradition, marriage customs, and secret communication networks. By 1350, something remarkable has emerged. While there's no longer a unified Nogai state, there's a Nogai cultural network that spans from the Baltic to the Black Sea. These scattered communities maintain contact through merchants, marriage arrangements, and coded messages. They develop what historians now call adaptive nomadism, the ability to maintain nomadic culture and values while living in settled communities. They preserve their horse-riding traditions while working as farmers. They maintain their warrior codes while serving as craftsmen. They keep their shamanic beliefs while adopting local religions. This cultural flexibility becomes their greatest strength, because while rigid peoples break under pressure, adaptive peoples bend and survive. 1360s. The Golden Horde begins its final collapse. The Black Death has devastated populations across Eurasia. The Mongol Empire fragments into dozens of competing khanates. Traditional nomadic peoples face extinction as climate change makes their lifestyle increasingly difficult. But the Nogai are ready for this moment, because they've spent 60 years learning how to survive in a changing world. As other nomadic groups desperately try to maintain their traditional lifestyle, the Nogai communities begin a remarkable migration. They're not fleeing collapse, they're positioning themselves to take advantage of new opportunities. 1390s. The steppes north of the Black Sea are largely empty. The Golden Horde's power has collapsed. Local sedentary populations have been devastated by wars and plagues. It's a power vacuum waiting to be filled. The scattered Nogai communities begin to coalesce. Families that have lived as Bulgarian nobles for 3 generations pack up and return to nomadic life. Hungarian cavalry officers abandon their estates and head for the steppes. Byzantine trading families liquidate their businesses and buy horses. Within a single generation, the Nogai have reformed as a unified people. But they're not the same as their ancestors. They're something entirely new. Nomads with sedentary knowledge, warriors with diplomatic skills, traditionalists with adaptive abilities. 1400–1500. While most of Europe struggles with the aftermath of medieval collapse, the Nogai enter a golden age. Their fusion of nomadic mobility with sedentary skills makes them invaluable to emerging powers. They become the premier cavalry force for the Ottoman Empire. They serve as diplomatic intermediaries between European kingdoms and Asian empires. They control crucial trade routes between East and West. Most remarkably, they maintain their cultural identity while constantly adapting to new circumstances. A Nogai serving the Ottoman Sultan still follows the marriage customs established by Nogai Khan in the 13th century. A Nogai trading family in Crimea still tells the stories of their ancestors' battles against the Golden Horde. But here's what makes the Nogai story truly extraordinary. They didn't just survive the medieval period, they survived the modern era. Through the rise and fall of the Ottoman Empire, the expansion of the Russian Empire, the Soviet period, and into the 21st century, Nogai communities have maintained their distinct identity. Today, over 100,000 people across Russia, Turkey, Romania, and other countries identify as Nogai. They still remember the stories of their great ancestor. They still follow cultural traditions established 800 years ago. They still see themselves as the children of the man who was more powerful than Khans and made emperors tremble. The story of the Nogai people teaches us something profound about survival, adaptation, and cultural identity. In a world where rigid empires collapsed and inflexible peoples disappeared, the Nogai endured because they understood a crucial truth. Strength doesn't come from never changing. It comes from changing while never losing your core identity. Nogai Khan built an empire that lasted barely 50 years, but he created a people that has survived for 800 years. His military victories are footnotes in history books. but his cultural legacy lives on in thousands of families who still carry his name and his heritage. Today, if you travel through the steppes of southern Russia, the mountains of the North Caucasus, or the plains of Romania, you can still meet the descendants of Nogai Khan's warriors. They might be modern professionals, farmers, or scholars. But ask them about their heritage, and their eyes will light up with pride as they tell you stories passed down through 20 generations. Stories of a general who became more powerful than emperors. Stories of a people who refused to disappear even when their empire fell. Stories of survival, adaptation, and the unbreakable bonds of cultural identity. Because the Nogai understood something that their conquerors never did. Empires rise and fall, but peoples endure forever. And in a world where cultures disappear every day, swallowed by globalization and modernization, the Nogai remain proud, distinct, and unbroken. They are living proof that with enough adaptability and cultural strength, any people can survive any catastrophe. The children of Nogai Khan still ride the steppes, and their story is far from over.